Hi everybody, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. Thank you for being here today. The topic today is one that I think you'll be interested in. It's certainly one that's shaped lots of parts of my life and something that I quite like talking about, which is food. Food is one of those things that has a very complex part to play in your life. It, of course, nourishes you. It's the thing that keeps your body strong. But we also, I think, find ourselves sometimes eating when we're not even hungry. And this is a really interesting dynamic that I think is worth exploring and talking about. And maybe in this video, talk a little bit about how we can overcome or, ride through the desire to eat when we're not hungry. Now, Sherry Broder, one of our bloggers, wrote this article called How to Surf the Urges to Eat When You're Not Hungry, and about how we, use different excuses like we have no willpower, for example, to actually avoid the reality of cutting back on foods that are maybe not good for you, high in sugar, not nutritious, not very not good for your body overall. But a lot of people just, and I put myself in this category, eat sometimes for just no reason, just because. And it's that because that it's really useful, I think, to get to the bottom of and just come back to the circle that says the secret is really to stop when eat only when you're hungry, and to stop when you're lightly full. Not full, but just lightly full. Stop. So eat only when you're hungry and stop when. I mean, if we could all follow that rule, we would probably all be in perfect weight zone and everything would be fine. But it is challenging because there's so many sensory inputs that come into our world when we're just out and about. I mean, for example, walking past a bakery. You can smell the bread, you can smell the cakes. In Europe, it's cheese. I mean, there's just so many beautiful cheeses. You can hardly, unless you put blinders on and just walk down the grocery aisle without looking, you are going to be tempted by, if you're a cheese person, by the scent and the evocative nature of it, a memory associated with that food. I think that's part of the reason why we overeat, because we attach memories to food and it becomes a habit. It becomes a habit that every time we walk past a bakery, we want to get a cup of coffee and a 400 calorie something, croissant, cake, muffin, something. And we don't really want that food. Like, we're not hungry for that food, but we are hungry for that feeling, for that satisfaction that comes from eating it. And that's kind of the thing. So I think the one of the things that Sherry talks about, what I think is very useful, goes back to the thing about willpower, is that willpower, saying I'm not going to eat that food, I'm not going to buy that croissant, is actually exhausting. It's exhausting, and it makes things, in many ways, resistance makes things worse, because you just, you're constantly thinking about it. So you say, no, I'm not going to, I told myself I would not eat those morning glory muffins, every day with my coffee. And then it's like, 2 minutes passes and it's like, oh, but they taste so good. It's like, I really want to try those. So the resistance actually increases the desire, and the willpower is just an exhausting exercise, and it creates a struggle. It creates a struggle that is like, a resource that that is limited. We can't keep it up forever. We just cannot keep up willpower forever. Maybe it's easy for you to do a fast in the morning or not to eat breakfast, but my challenge is evenings. And part of it is because if you eat around 5 or 6 in the evening, by 8 or 9, you're usually thinking about nibbling something. And if you're living alone, like many of us are, it's like, you just want to have that little nibble. For what reason? You're not hungry. You had a huge dinner. It was a good dinner. You had, you had everything that you wanted. It was, maybe you lit a candle. You had the meal plus some dessert, maybe a drink. And so when you're sitting there getting ready for bed, you don't need that cheese and crackers. You don't need that. But there is a better, but anyway, there's a better way. And Sherry talks about this in her article. She calls it urge surfing. Urge is a strong desire to do something. So you can't think of anything else. It becomes obsessive. And it can be triggered by an event. It can be triggered by a feeling. And actually, it's a memory, a place, a smell, something that you associate with not doing something. Now, life is full of waves, and you are tempted by things at all different levels, not just eating. I mean, it's shopping, it's, buying things, it's buying makeup, it's buying, clothing, or buying things for the house. Those are the kinds of temptations that become overwhelming, and we can't control them. So hunger for food is only one hunger that we go through. So she actually took through like some things you can do to actually create. Like there's the wave, okay? There's the bakery, there's the croissant, there's the clothing store, there's the what coming towards you, and it's a huge wave, and you can't hardly control it because you're just hungry for that thing. And then she says, here are some things you can do. I want to make sure I get this right. So basically, she says, try not to move. Stop, sit down if you're walking somewhere on a park bench or whatever, and just count to 60. Not count to 10. 60. Okay, I'll wait. 60. Count to 60. Notice the comfort or restlessness and the desire, the conversation that starts happening in your brain. Come on, get up, just keep walking. You're not gonna buy the muffin. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. But just don't do that. Watch the arguments that you give yourself for stopping, and sit down and count to 60. Notice all the sensations. Stomach, gurgling, anxiety, you're moving your fingers, whatever the sensation is, and then count to 60 again. This is surfing. Like when you're out on the surfboard, like you don't want to be like crashing into the water, so you have to focus for more than 60 seconds, right? You're in an ocean, you have to keep surfing. And I think that's a really cool, and then once you've counted to 60 for that second time, then don't let the urge take you over. Guess what you have to do? Yes, count to 60 again. So now it sounds like forever, but it's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes of 60, counting to 60. Just make attention, and she says in this case, don't swallow. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just something that, gives you a sensation of satisfaction or something, but where the idea here is to hold the tension a little bit. Hold it so that you're actually conscious that you're holding back on something, but you're not like hurting yourself, but you're that willpower to just keep counting. And so the secret to surfing when you're not hungry, like surfing the food desire when you're not hungry, is to notice, she says, focus, breathe, and ride it out. 60 seconds, pause. 60 seconds, pause. I know I'm dragging this out a little bit because I think I'm trying to, in my own mind, create the reality that she's trying to help us to understand here, that we can do this by simply knowing that we have power over our emotions, over our desires. So if you're thinking about buying some outfit, that's why I think we always say, let's have a cup of coffee and just sit down and give some space between you and the thing that you want to eat, whether it's food or something material. And I think that's actually really good advice. And she says another time that you should do this is to, before you normally have a desire to eat, like for example, me in the evenings, like before you even get the desire to have the snack, to actually sit down and do the count to 60, pause, note the restlessness, the discomfort, count to 60 again, and so on. And I think by doing that, it creates this kind of like a warrior mentality. Like you're not fighting it with sort of arguments. You're actually doing it with willpower that's positive. It's not like resistance and negative willpower. It's like, breathe, watch this. I can do this. I can ride this out. How often do you get the urge to eat when you're not hungry? Am I the only one? And why do you think it is? Why do you think a lot of people say the very simple explanation is, I'm an emotional eater. I eat when I am emotional, when I'm feeling sad or feeling even happy. When I'm feeling good, I reward myself with food, because food is, of course, the only thing that doesn't talk back, right? I mean, chocolate cake doesn't ask any questions or doesn't ask you, why are you eating me? It just says, come, food. You're not hungry, but just let's eat it anyway. Anyway, I hope that you found this useful. Thank you, Sherry, for the article. I think this whole idea of surfing out your urges when you're not hungry, or surfing out your urges when there's something that you want that you can't afford, or you don't need, or isn't the right thing for you, and see if it works. And I think sometimes it's actually helpful to have another distraction, like turn on some music or, do something that's a little bit distracting. I found that helps too. Anyway, I'd love to have your feedback. I hope that you're enjoying this conversation. Please take care of yourselves, stay safe and well, and we'll talk again soon. But know that you're loved and respected and welcome here. And I'm by your side always. And I love you all. Take good care. Bye for now.